Hello everybody. If you're watching this now or later or listening, you're probably wondering what does When Harry Met Sally have to do with David Lynch? Well, we are taking a break because of recent tragic news of Rob Reiner's passing. Colin, you had mentioned that Rob Reiner is one of your favorite directors of all time, and you wanted to discuss something about him because of the passing, because we lost him and David Lynch this year. And there were a lot of titles. There's at least 7 titles I think we could have picked from, and I know there was a back and forth of certain ones. And I was like, yeah, any of those are great, but I think this is the perfect one to talk about, not just because it's the holiday season, but also because if those of you who don't know, the tragic news that Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered. And this is the film where they met while he was making this movie. So it feels like a touching tribute to them to talk about the movie where they met and fell in love with what many would say is, if It Happened One Night was the creation of the romantic comedy, then many cite this as the creation of the modern romantic comedy.
Oh, for sure. It's a legend. It's probably the most one of the most quotable films of all time. Like I've gotten into social media back and forth with people where we just send each other lines from When Harry Met Sally over and over again, and it can go on for days. Um, and there's so much I wanted to get into this. This is easily one of my favorite movies ever. A few of his movies qualify for that, but it is. I think you're right. Like it's the movie where he met his partner and where they fell in love. So I think it does make a lot of sense for us to be talking about it, and also because of the time of year, because the plot really hinges around the holidays, and so both the sort of the major plot beat and then the sort of resolution of that all sort of happen over the holidays. So it's nice to be talking about it this time of year and just to see something truly beautiful and joyful. It really is a joyful movie. It's a hard movie not to smile. Again, a few of his films uh, fit that bill, but interestingly, I was talking with someone over the weekend about Rob Reiner, who's someone who wasn't very familiar with his work. They were younger, so of course, most of his most famous films sort of came out long before their time, and it really is remarkable how different all of his films are. He is a director that did not have uh, the kind of style that you felt like you were watching a Rob Reiner movie, because it's almost like he kept trying to do a different genre every time he made a film.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention the 7 films that I think are undisputed masterpieces in some regards. So, of course, this is Spinal Tap, which he gets to be among few directors that created a genre.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go down this list, we're going to see the people he collaborated with that he kind of elevated and gave them a boost in their career. So, of course, with that film, Christopher Guest goes on to become Christopher Guest, even though he
Yes.
was already an established sketch
Right.
comedian. Of course, he's one of the best directors to tackle Stephen King. He directed 2 of the best Stephen King adaptations ever made, with Stand By Me and Misery.
Yep.
And I was listening, they did a tribute to him in the Stephen King podcast, and they said the thing that made him one of the best directors to adapt King's work is he's one of the few directors that let Stephen King's voice be in the movie. Because,
Mm.
as great as Carrie is, as great as The Shining is, as great as The Dead Zone is, those are very much those directors.
Yes.
Like, even though they're good adaptations, you could argue about The Shining, some people, but
Right.
those are those directors' visions of that story.
Right.
But with Stand By Me and Misery, it does feel like you're watching a Stephen King book come to life. Like, it does feel like it's Stephen King's story.
Right. And they
And
both are filled with a lot of heart, which is maybe one of the signature pieces of Rob Reiner films.
yeah, and he even kind of helped William Goldman have like a renaissance of his screenwriting career with The Princess Bride, and well, William Goldman adapted Misery,
Mm.
and so, and then with this movie, When Harry Met Sally, it boosts Nora Ephron's career
Yeah.
as well because she went on to become a director after this.
Hmm.
And then, of course, with A Few Good Men and The American President, him leveling up Aaron Sorkin from playwright to TV
Right.
show showrunner to director, screenwriter himself. So it's a lot of him like boosting people's careers by collaborating with them.
Right. That's a
And
really interesting way to think about it, and that's quite beautiful.
of course, I've never seen The Sure Thing, which is his second film, so I don't know if that one's quite up in the pantheon of those other seven. And there's, of course, I've never seen this one either, but the infamous North in between A
Right.
Few Good Men and American President.
Yeah. There's, like most directors, his filmography isn't completely spotless, but there's, he's made so many great films that are just so timeless that, we can forgive him for maybe making some that didn't work for me specifically or whatever. But um, when I think about the films that he did make, and I realize there's a few on his list that I haven't seen. So I'm going to make a point of checking some of his more recent stuff out. I know there's also a few. It's the bucket list was a huge hit when it came out, and it's not necessarily one that we always sort of talk about in the same breath with some of his classics. Um, but he seemed to make films that were that tapped into something for people, right? Because they did mostly they found an audience and were films that really stuck with people. Again, like whether it's Spinal Tap or The Princess Bride or Misery, like these are films that people quote to this day, that people talk about to this day, and make reference to. They're iconic. A lot of people who haven't seen the films are familiar with certain aspects of it, right? Um, so there's something really lasting and also just tapping into the zeitgeist for a lot of his work.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen a lot of his later career. I think the last one I saw was The Bucket List. And there's actually a movie he did make that he co-wrote with his son, who of course is the accused of the
Hmm.
killing of him and his wife. And it's called Being Charlie, and it's about a dad struggling with
Yep.
his son's mental illness, which apparently the son was
Hmm.
struggling for years with. And in fact,
Yeah.
Rob Reiner was very much involved, and it seems like they were trying to help him. And it seems like Rob Reiner, everything you hear about him, that he was a very kind and loving person. And we
Yes.
know he was very much heavily involved in political activism too.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I do remember. I've seen a number of those films. I haven't. I don't remember them in the same way I remember some of his older things. So I do want to revisit some of that in light of this, and revisit a few of those films that I do see. And then there's a few on his list that I still haven't seen. So I'm going to start making my way through some of them. It was nice to start with When Harry Met Sally, though, because again, it is such a joyful film, and it's nice to focus a little bit on the joy. It made me laugh out loud again. Watching again, I've seen it a million times, and it still makes me laugh. Also, seeing Carrie Fisher again, like
Uh-huh.
like
Well,
another genius that we've lost way too early. So,
yeah, there's so many people involved in this movie that are no longer with us because uh yeah, Carrie Fisher, Bruno
Bruno Kirby.
Kirby,
Yeah,
Nora Ephron, who wrote the screenplay,
yeah, yeah.
Rob Reiner's mom, who has one of the
Right.
most quotable lines in the movie. Um, but was it just this incredible run that he had for like a decade that got you as one of his your
I think
favorites?
so. I mean, as a kid, like he made these, like when I was a kid, he was the movies he was putting out were these big movies, and they were all amazing. And so you just, you know, his name meant something, right? As one of the probably one of the first directors' names that I paid attention to, because he kept making movies that I loved. I mean, I remember seeing Princess Bride as a child and just being blown away by it. I didn't see Spinal Tap till later because it was not something that you'd see as a kid. Um, but yeah, he was probably one of the first directors that I recognized, and also probably because he was an actor too. That his like I
Right,
would have some familiarity, even though I mean, All in the Family was way before my time, but it was still something that you'd see in reruns or
right.
something, right?
And it
So
was I don't know how old your parents are, but that was like a
yeah,
seminal television show for my parents when
for sure.
I mean they were young parents when that show was coming on, but like it was a huge thing and in fact they would still call him Meathead and I'd be like,
Right.
"What who's Meathead?"
Right, right, right. But you'd see him in other things here and there too. So he was a director that maybe like Steven Spielberg, who was a bit of a celebrity just on their own, compared to most other directors of the time. And you may not, if you know, unless you were a real film nerd, or maybe a bit older to be focusing on the directors of movies. It was sort of a pre, Tarantino or era, right? So
Right.
he's one of the few directors that was a celebrity. But and then also I remember this movie really launched the career of Harry Connick Jr. too.
Oh,
Like
that's true, right? Cuz the
yeah,
music. Yeah.
yeah, he became a big star after that. Was again at a time when big band music wouldn't have been a thing on the charts, and yet he was having this great success, and and a lot of it brought on by this movie. The soundtrack is just perfect. Like it's so great. Again, it's just part of what makes watching it so much fun is the music plays into that as well. So
Well, I know there was a big talk between this and The Princess Bride, though I think A Few Good Men was also mentioned. But the hard thing for me is that both this and The Princess Bride are very contextual films for me and my wife's relationship.
mm,
Like both two of our all-time favorite movies, and
right,
and
of
part
course, they're
of it
both my on my top movies list too, for sure.
and part of it is because we were also friends before we became
Mm,
spouses and in a relationship like that. Not quite to the degree of when Harry and Sally in the movie, but
right.
still. And I
And you didn't
think
hate each other when you met?
no, we didn't hate each other when we
Okay,
met.
good.
Um, and but I think what makes this movie so that it's lasted for over 30 years and it is iconic and people love it is not only because it has that classic meet cute of a romantic comedy, but it feels real, right? It feels
Yes,
realistic. And yeah, we can laugh at the beginning of 41-year-old trying to make 41-year-old Billy Crystal look like a college student.
right, right.
And you could say, oh, but there's a significant age difference between Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. And yeah, maybe Tom Hanks is more the person that was better, even though I like this movie more than the two classic Hanks Ryan movies, even though those are
Right,
good movies.
right.
Um, but there's nobody that could have played Harry than Billy Crystal.
No, no. When you think about that, when you read about the people they were going to cast, and then you like, no, like it needed to be this, and you're right. Like, I mean, I don't think there's supposed to be there's not the age gap between the characters. I think the actors,
Right. No,
there's an
they're
age gap, but
supposed
I
to
think
be
they're
close
supposed
to
to.
the same age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're both finishing college at the beginning. So I think there's, but at the same time, I think he just encapsulated. Like I'd forgotten how unlikable they both are at the beginning because you fall in love with them both so much that you just
Uh-huh.
by the end. But at the beginning, they really are both unlikable people. But that's part of what makes it real is that they like you watch them mature
Well,
very
yeah,
realistically
because
throughout the course of the
they're
movie.
like what, 22 at the beginning. So of
Right.
course Harry is a bit of an edge lord of like a lot of
Yes.
men are at 22 years old. They think they know everything and they know nothing.
Right. And they think it's all like deep to be dark and
Right.
miserable. And yes, and Sally's a mess herself. She's, you know, so controlling, and maybe it's a reaction to not being able to control things in her life or something. Who knows? But they both are really quite unlikable, and so it's interesting to watch yourself come to love them and see them as the very flawed people that they are. Like it's when you mentioned at the beginning about how it sort of invented the modern rom-com, I think there is something to that. But so few rom-coms live up to the depth of the characters, the the three-dimensional characters. Like the whole time too, like I realized watching it this time too, just what a wonderful job it does of really looking at what good relationships are, right? Because the whole time, like often think of Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher's character as comic relief, and they are. They're very funny, and they're so much fun to watch. But they're also kind of a bad example of a couple, right? Like they're very standard. They're very like falling into like the whole point is to find a relationship and then to lock it down. And it's not the movie's really saying like that's not the way you should do a relationship. You got to find this real connection between people, right? And that's what
Yeah.
Harry and Sally is about. Like they don't connect the first couple times they meet because they're not focusing on the connection between two human beings, right? And that's the
Right.
whole question about the friendship thing, right? It's not it can there's a lot of jokes made about can men and women be friends, but there's this idea that it's almost they need to be, right? And that's how you get a really healthy and positive relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found the contrast between the two couples in the that we follow through the movie really interesting this time. Maybe I hadn't quite seen that before.
Well, I mean, I really like some of the scenes with Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby, especially the scene after they call each other because they're
Yes.
each of each other's best friends, and after they get off the phone with them,
Yeah.
they have that moment in bed, and she's like, "Promise me I'll never have to be out there
Right.
again," and he's
Right.
like, "You'll never have to be out there again."
Right. Right.
And the scene where after Harry blows up when he sees his ex-wife at like the electronics store,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
blows up at them arguing over the coffee table, and she's like,
Oh, I
"You'll
love the
never
coffee
want that
table.
coffee table."
Yes, that's one of the best lines. I wonder how much Carrie Fisher contributed to her own lines sometimes, because we know now what a
Yeah, that
great
she
script
was
doctor she
a
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was a script doctor, and
Yeah.
was quite funny herself because she did a lot of like
Oh,
open
yeah.
mic one woman shows.
Yeah, yeah. You do wonder again. So every line in this movie is like a quote that you can, that you can just say, and a fan will recognize it. And um, it was wonderful seeing Carrie Fisher again. Like she had so few strong parts over the course of her career, and this is just such a great role for her. She's so good in it. You just, it's yeah, and Bruno Kirby too. Like to be honest, he's maybe has a wider filmography, but he is funny in this. He's so real. He's there. Yeah, it's just seeing them. But I when I think about the movie, I don't immediately go to them, but it was so great seeing them. And
Well,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say what you mentioned is like the level of character that's in this movie, because in a weaker romantic comedy there wouldn't be that much character moments or depth to either one of their characters. They would just be like, they're the best friend, this is their
Yeah.
personality.
And they're zany or they're funny or they're whatever, right? Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be sort of all it is. But you see that you really understand, like, they, you get a real sense of these people as real human beings. And that's why I think I was finding it more like I said, I was kind of like seeing the contrast between their relationships, because you see so much about how she, like, her character is, her goal is to be in a relationship, right? It's not about the relationship being because she met someone that she, feels she should be in a relationship with. It's like she wants the relationship, so she finds the person to put in that. um that the whole scene when they're in the restaurant, when they're on the double date and they're mismatched with the wrong people, and the conversation is just so stilted, but yet so funny to watch. Like, it's painful and wonderful at the same time. Like, that just writing is so good as they're talking,
Yeah.
quoting each, his writing to each
Yep.
other, and yeah, and just all of their reactions and just the looks between them. The chemistry that Crystal and Ryan have here is so good. And I think Ryan got like short shrift a little bit because we don't think of her as, one of the great, like, we think of her as a movie star, less than an actress, but here she is just like, she's so good in this
Well,
role.
yeah, because she's having to do a lot of levels here. Because, yeah, on the surface level, Sally seems like a very uptight, um, kind of over demanding person. And yeah, to be honest, if I was on a date with Sally and she started ordering food like that, I probably would not ask her out again, even if she was nice. I'd be like,
Right.
oh my God, I can't just
Yeah,
order
yeah.
what's on the menu.
But she's so funny. Her comedic timing is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Her pathos is so good. Like, you really feel for her in a
The
lot of the.
vulnerability.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that's what's, again, like, the first part. You wouldn't want to date either of these people,
No,
like,
they're
for the
both.
first.
You would be
Yeah,
like, what? Ugh.
but then you see them get vulnerable and you see them start, like, and that's how real people are. Like, often you meet people and you write them off because they say something, I don't know, maybe they're having a bad day, or they're
Yeah.
they say something, because we all have our, you know weaknesses where we act dumb or like a jerk for whatever reason, right? And so we're seeing, like, that car ride is just miserable. That starts it off. It's
Yeah.
hilarious and funny, and like, Sheldon the Wonder Schlong is another quote that I've probably said a million times. um, but
Yeah.
the by the time they meet at the sort of main timeline, the 10 years later, you
Yeah.
start to see them both sort of more vulnerable. Like, when he is an asshole for big chunks of the movie, and he's
Yeah.
unlearning a lot of that assholeness. And I think that's what's so beautiful. Like, when he makes the comment about, statute of limitations on apologies, and he does take responsibility for, even though he still had, he has this temper tantrum after seeing his ex-wife,
Mm-hmm.
as they're looking at the wagon wheel coffee table. But you see him learning and trying to grow beyond that, and that's, I think, what makes. And same with her, like, you see her growing and letting go of some of what the expectations are for who she's supposed to be, and letting go of needing to have everything be perfect all the time. And so, as you see them become more vulnerable, as you see them grow, you start to see, okay, these are people I would have written off, but now I'm falling in love with them too, right? And you get it, and it makes sense, and it starts to, feel very honest and real. And maybe some of that has to come down to the fact that my understanding is that most of the scripts came from interviews of the people involved. It's a little before trilogy that way, that they,
Yeah.
Rob Reiner and Nora Front really built a lot of themselves into these characters and from their own real world experiences. All of those vignettes of the old couples are all
They're,
based on interviews from real people telling their
right.
stories. Those
Yeah.
people are great too. Like, I
Yeah.
could have just watched the movie of those interviews and I would have loved it. It's
Yeah. Those are
so
really
good.
touching and sweet and almost all funny. But yeah,
Yes.
I mean, Nora Ephron was a journalist before she
Right.
became a screenwriter and director.
Yeah.
Because she had written a couple of Mike Nichols movies before this, and Reiner. I don't know how far his divorce with Penny Marshall had been when they
Right.
started making this movie, but I think he was in a very dark place of like
Right.
not really happy. And I
Right.
think the ending of this movie was different originally.
Yeah, they were gonna get back together as friends, but not sort of continue in a romantic relationship. And I could have seen how that could work too. Um, but again, it feels like one of those endings that probably ended up being for the best. And
Well,
it was inspired by meeting his long-term partner that he ended up um, living with till the end of their lives, sadly. He and so clearly that he was inspired to say, okay, we can find love, and maybe love is best when it's based in this grounding of connection and friendship, and really getting to know people, getting to know each other as people, and not as, I mean, I think that's what a lot of that question is, right? When we talk about, can men and women be friends, um, it's this idea, like, can you see someone as something other than a
attractive,
sexual
not
or
attractive.
a
Yeah.
sexual target or a romantic target, like again, that sort of idea of having to be married, and so who is going to be the person I catch to be married to. So can you see past all that? Can you see past being a sexual conquest and get to just being about, like, I see this person and I see who they are, and we're connecting, and we have this relationship because as two human beings that are in this relationship with each other, who are very different, but support each other, complement each other, and together build something bigger than just on their own. So that's, I think, a really one of the things that's really beautiful about When Harry Met Sally. And I will say, like, so many rom-coms just don't live up to this. Like, this is the gold standard of the genre.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to structure it to where it's not just do these two people have chemistry, do these two people like sizzle on screen together. No. And I've seen this movie a ton of times, but I noticed in this watching there are various scenes where it feels like each other is testing the other to see
Mm,
if the other one is wanting to be more than friends, and then they make comments about things, and I'm like, well, there's your answer. Like, Harry's like, isn't it nice to just be able to sit
right,
next to someone and not be able to have to
right,
talk? And it's like, duh, Harry, that's how you know you met someone
right,
special. and
right, right.
and
Yeah.
like, there's a scene where they're, of course, where they're doing the funny voice about the pepper and the pepper
Yes.
squash. And
Yes.
when she says she has a date, I feel like in that scene she's testing to see, like, does he have a reaction to this? Like,
Right.
does he care that I have a date?
Right, right. I like it when they talk about their relationships, because again, it's like it's because it feels different than he talks to Bruno Kirby, or she talks to Carrie Fisher about these relationships, right? Like, it feels like they are getting to this other level of connection that is where they really do feel like they can share about, maybe in a way that they can't with hardly anybody else. That
I
again contributes to making the relationship feel so real. Like, so many rom-coms are about two hot people, and I'm not going to comment on, but it's nice that this movie doesn't feel like that's what this is about, right?
It's not, and I
No.
mean,
And
I'm
sure,
not
Meg Ryan is a
begrudging.
beautiful woman, but it's not about that, right?
It's not about that, and I'm not begrudging Billy Crystal's personal looks, or if anyone finds Billy Crystal
Of
attractive.
course, yeah, I'm sure a
But
lot of people do.
he's not your typical
Right.
leading man that would
Right.
normally be in these type of movies.
Right.
Um, but it's not about two hot people
Right.
connecting. It's about two human beings connecting
Right.
and growing
Well,
together.
and they both feel like they're characters out of, like, an older, like, they both feel like characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't mean that, like, that they're fake. I mean that, like, that they're people who are interesting.
Yeah.
Like, Sally is, like, again, not the typical leading lady. Like, sure, she's being played by a beautiful actress, but she is, um, a difficult, challenging character that's not just easily like desirable and just the ideal woman that everyone fantasizes about, right? Like, he has his
Right.
whole high maintenance speech, and I think there's, some of that's getting at the fact that we're not supposed to see Sally as this ideal, like that neither of them is supposed to be like. In so many rom-coms, you just get people that are in there. They have some adorable flaw, but they're
Right.
not. Yeah,
They're the ideal male or female fantasy.
exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, having her be a journalist, even though that's, Nora Ephron's background, that's very classic romantic comedy,
Yes,
especially like a Howard Hawks style
exactly.
romantic comedy.
That's right. They feel like characters out of movies like that, or even Annie Hall or something. Like, there was I think, there's a, I was thinking about, because I'd recently rewatched Annie Hall because of Diane Keaton's passing. Um, and, it's, you, it's, Woody Allen movies can be a bit of a struggle with, everything that we know now, but and this feels like in some ways more similar to Annie Hall without any of that baggage.
Well,
um,
yeah, because, uh, not here to discuss Woody Allen's,
no.
problematic behavior, but, again, I've not heard anything but incredibly nice things about Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Um,
Billy Crystal,
Meg
all the people
Ryan.
involved in this.
I
Yeah.
don't think I've heard anything bad about Nora Ephron. In fact, there's a
No.
funny story about, um, Nora Ephron her husband was a writer, or her most recent husband.
Okay.
He's the guy that wrote Wise Guys and the script
Oh.
to Goodfellas,
Wow.
and
Okay.
and the guy who Henry Hill's based off of, or I guess his name is Henry Hill. I don't.
Mm.
Anyways, apparently he would call him all the time and talk to him, and he'd be like, "I gotta write," and then he would hand the phone off to Nora Ephron, and he would just talk to her. And
Right.
apparently that's how she came up with the script for My Blue Heaven, was because of,
Oh.
which
Okay.
some people joke is like a quasi sequel to Goodfellas.
Right. Interesting. Interesting.
But yeah, so yeah, I've
But
heard a
yeah,
lot of.
but I guess, yeah, where I was going was that there's sort of a, like, rom-coms kind of sometimes miss maybe what is really working here, right?
Mhm.
And yes, it has some of the cliches, like the running at the end of the movie, but
Right.
again, I love the way that's handled. Like, it's, you know I love I mean, again, another very quotable line that has been, we've all said, so many times. But again, it doesn't feel dishonest, right? Like, the
No.
things that he says he loves about her are things that are not about her being, you know, uh, the sort of a model of, or anything. Like, it's about really seeing her and all of her, you know
Right.
humanity. Yeah.
It's exactly what happens when you love someone
Right.
at that level.
Right.
That's a person you love more than anything about yourself, and you're like, despite all these things that drive me crazy about you, I love them about you because it's you.
Right. Right. And again, with focusing on this time of year, there is the part where they are together. They're doing all the Christmas stuff together, and they're doing it as friends. And you see how satisfying that is for them, right? You see this beautiful time for them to be sharing all of this, and then New Year's is, that one New Year's is awkward because of the, they're there, and then there's the time to kiss at midnight, and of course they're there with each other, and they're
Mhm.
purposely not kissing. So they have that awkward, and then a year later they've been estranged because of them not being read. Like, I think what happens is that, because I remember thinking this time again, like, it had been a little while since I'd seen it, and this the way that they have sex for the first time is really not a great
No, it's not a
not a
great
great way to
time, but I
know.
mean, it does happen when people are that vulnerable to each
Right.
other.
That's
Like,
right.
it happens.
That's right.
Um
But I think both of them realized that it was, not the way that they would have wanted that. As much as they both clearly wanted it,
Right.
it was not the way that they wanted it, and that it felt wrong. So it's not just that they're being like having a reflex of, I think when I was younger, I thought it was more of just like a reflexive, like, oh, this is awkward and now I don't know what to do. But it's really more of a, no, this wasn't how this should have been, and this doesn't feel right, despite the fact that this is the person that I do want to have this relationship with, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's where, like, I think again, the movie's just playing on levels that you don't necessarily expect. And that's, and unfortunately, again, because they're very real human beings with very flawed and very like imperfect ways of handling things, they don't handle the after effects of that well, and that leads to the all of the feelings and the emotions that pull them apart. I know that we sort of treat rom-coms and that sort of like conflict that drives them apart and then they have to come back together as such a cliche, but this is about, like, those cliches are usually
Well,
built
I
on
mean,
something that's structured
that
well.
really happens in real life. People
Right.
sometimes give into the moment and don't think about it. And a lot of times, like with the situation of what she's upset about, she's upset that her ex-boyfriend is getting married. And it's almost like, well, I'll show him sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just giving into this bent up feelings that they have. Whereas, the more mature thing would have been like, this isn't the right time for this. If this is what you want, I want it because you want it with me, not because you're just feeling.
Right. Right. um exactly, I think. And and then of course it circles back to again being Christmas time and then New Year's. And I think the holidays just used so well here because it's not
Hmm.
just a backdrop, it's like it's a time of where a lot of people are feeling lonely. It can be a time where there's a lot of emotions and things can be difficult and you're wanting to feel connected. And again, it so it feels like it's a very um, this the story sort of depends on that a bit in a way that I think just works really well. And I used to this was what the film I used to watch a lot of the times over the holidays. I used to rewatch it, and I hadn't for a little while, so it was kind of nice to have the opportunity to do that again. And then of course the New Year's Eve scene, even though I'm thinking, wait a minute, New Year's Eve in New York, you're not going to be running around in a light jacket.
Well, that's also not realistic because he's walking the streets and there's hardly anybody on the street.
Right. Well,
And
maybe he's
then
in the sort of a side street. He's not in nowhere near Times Square or anything.
and the beginning of the movie where she drops him off, I'm like, there would be way more traffic in New York City. Yeah.
I know the most unrealistic moment is when they, after the dinner date, and Bruno and Carrie dash off and they call a cab and it's right there and they hop right in and dash off. Like that's the most unrealistic New York scene in the movie. They'd be standing there for a while awkwardly waiting for that cab.
Yeah. But it's a perfect movie moment, because
Right.
they're
Yes.
like having that conversation. Do you really
Yeah.
want to? And then they're like,
Yeah.
but you need to wait. And then they're like, I'm gonna get a cab. Me too.
Yeah.
And we know what's gonna happen.
The script is so damn funny. Like
Yeah.
I that's one thing I was reminded of this time. Like it is laugh out loud funny. It is chuckle in your heart funny. It is smile through tears funny. Like it's got all of the humor covered, and it is funny like almost all the way throughout. And some of that is Billy Crystal and Carrie Fisher, and like I said, I think Meg Ryan's comic
Oh,
talents
I
here are
mean, yeah, she's
underrated.
hilarious.
She
And I mean,
is.
her her orgasm scene is gonna go down as one of the funniest scenes in movie history.
Yes, my favorite parody of that is Miss Piggy's sneeze. Have you seen that? It's so good. The
Yeah.
Muppets are amazing. Anyways, but I mean, Nora Ephron and Rob Reiner put together like a script here that is just like chef's kiss. It's one of the okay. So here, this is the other thing I remember because this is definitely one of my favorite movies, and it references heavily one of my other favorite movies. Like the fact that it
Yes.
speaks to Casablanca and their whole discussion around Casablanca, like maybe that's another thing that just identifies with, because
I
all of my references are movie references, right?
Yeah.
And so
Uh,
when they start talking about Casablanca, that just felt like, yes, I know exactly these are my people.
I love it though that they will just be on the phone with each other,
Yeah,
watching the movie, talking about the movie. In fact, it's brought up the first time they meet
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
about
love
the
that
ending.
they grow and they change their perspective on, like, how many times have we talked about that in our thing about seeing some movie when we were younger and then rewatching it later as adults and having a completely different meaning out of it, right? Like,
Yeah,
that just felt so real, that their perspectives on what's going on for the characters in Casablanca changes as they get more mature and they experience more in their life and they have loss, and it just felt like such, like, the movie tells you so, this script tells you so much about these people without ever having anyone sit and explain
yeah.
plot or anything, right? It just comes so organically out of the conversations.
And they talk about, one of the best last lines of a movie, and it's like, yeah, it is
Yep.
one of the best last lines of a movie.
Yep.
Yeah,
It is. It's like I recently saw Casablanca again on the big screen this past summer and was just reminded of just what it's, again, one of those movies that supposedly they had, like, I don't know how many different writers and they were rewriting it on the set, and yet you could point to today as one of the best scripts ever written for a film. And
yeah.
so sometimes these things just come together and some, like, the stars all align, right? And I think when Harry Met Sally is another example of that. So many great lines, so many great scenes. Technically it's not the final scene, but him running to find her on New Year's Eve is such a great
Well,
moment. Like I said, it's inspired so many pale comparisons.
right. I mean, yeah, it's a cliche, but what better way to declare your love on New Year's Eve, right?
Right.
At a party during the
That's right.
song, and then they're gonna get into a a discussion about what does this song even mean.
Yes, I know. I love that. I love that. That, and I mean, also the use of Frank Sinatra's "It Had to Be You" is
Yeah.
just so classic. It's beautiful. Like, again, the music here, I love that. This is my first, like, this is how I first experienced Surrey with a Fringe on Top. It wasn't until many years later that I saw Oklahoma and understood what the heck this song is about. So whenever I hear Surrey with a Fringe on Top, I think about him meeting Ira. And again,
Elvira.
Meg Ryan singing in that song is so amazing. Like, this is up there with, like, you think like Billie Holiday, you think about like these sort of madcap 30s 40s comedies. Like, her crafting of Sally Albright is such a beautiful piece of work. Like, she is really, and I mean, she got just cast in so many movies that were just not up to the level of this, but she's so good here, so fun. Like, she holds her own against one of the greatest comedic talents
Yeah.
in modern cinema, right? And she held her own with him and was equally as funny and just a very good equal to him throughout all of this. And that her singing, her bad singing, and it just reminded me of Born Yesterday, right? Like, it feels like,
Oh
I mean, a
yeah.
different but similar sort of, like, kind of, or yeah, she's so good
Well,
in
and that
this.
she's acknowledging it because when they're singing and then he sees her and she's like, "What is it, my voice?"
Yes. Because I'm sure she can sing a lot better than that, but she just nailed the bad singing. It just feels so real.
Yeah.
I I I guess, like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this movie in light of what happened just over a week ago was that it fills me with such joy, and I am just so grateful to Rob Reiner for making these wonderful movies that I adore, and this one being one that I could just makes me, it makes me feel like, for me, I will love a romantic movie when it makes me actually feel like people are falling in love, and this is
Yeah.
one of those great examples of that. you really feel for these people. You fall in love with them. You feel them falling in love with each other is real. They're imperfect and sometimes really frustrating characters, but you still love them, and that just feels so much like real love in a way that so many rom-coms just don't.
Well, I mean, the key factors here are, of course, the dialogue. So Nora Ephron did an amazing job
Yeah,
with that, which is always a key factor in the romantic comedy. That's one of the things that's always highlighted in all those classic rom coms from the 30s and 40s is the dialogue,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the
Yeah,
line delivery. Um, but I think this movie is genuine, and that's something a lot of romantic comedies don't have. It doesn't feel genuine,
right.
and I'm not just saying that it's believable that these characters are that they've started well, they first hate each other, then they become friends, and then they become in a relationship. But it's genuine because people can watch this movie and be like, oh, that feels like a relationship I'm in or have been in, or I know people that met like
Hmm.
this. Like, people can watch this and see themselves in it. And maybe it is the elements of the interviews with the couples that help make it just that extra level of genuine. But it is really a sweet, touching, comforting film. And
Without being
yeah,
condescending.
yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think that's what makes it work for me. I was just thinking, I had to look up, okay, how did this not win the best screenplay Oscar? But what a year for
Was it nominated?
screenplays. It was, but it was up against Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Do the Right Thing, Crimes and Misdemeanors, and Dead Poets Society, which ended up winning. Now, I love me some Dead Poets Society, another
Yeah,
amazing movie. It's certainly worthy of winning an Oscar, but with those five, I'm just not sure. God, like,
yeah. That's a
what
strong category,
it's a strong category. Yep.
and
I think any one of them could have won and it would have felt right.
and how crazy that at least three of those films weren't even nominated for Best Picture, and a lot
Mm,
of people would say those are three of the greatest films ever made.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, easily. And you know, Do the Right Things on my Dead to Poet Society and Do the Right Thing are both on my list of um, favorite films as well. So it's what a year
Yeah,
to say that. Again, we're talking about referencing movies. They do at the very beginning. They make a reference to the trope of the a couple meeting and them hating each other at first, and they quote the line from the most contemptible and there's so much about this that's classic, right? The credit sequence is something, like I said, right out of that's really what threw me to Annie Hall. Like, it was very much sort of that sort of style. The screwball comedies of the 30s, 40s, like, it just has this timelessness um, about it that is just, and it's a beautiful film. Like, we think so much about the script and the characters, but he films New York in a way that just is so gorgeous. Like the fall, the autumn colors in the
oh,
park,
it's
like,
so gorgeous. He makes the
yeah,
city look beautiful, and
yeah. And in the snow over the Christmas, like that part too, like, yeah, just
um it's a very close it's a different vibe, but it's very close to another one of my all-time favorite movies that's a bit of a love story in New York, which is Billy Wilder's The Apartment.
right,
Like,
right. Another good
especially
reference.
capturing like just the park and everything in the city and all the different lifestyles and walks of life going on.
Also a Christmas movie, right?
Yeah, also with the Declaration of Love on New Year's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure that's got to be simmering in the background here. That's not just a coincidence, I'm sure. This is a cinematic film. Like,
Mhm.
we don't necessarily think about it in that way, but that in so many ways it really is. It's a
Well,
beautifully shot film.
I made the joke because I guess millennials are now the ages the baby boomers were when this movie came out.
Right,
And
right,
when Billy Crystal was talking about, because there's, a scene where they're all at Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher's house for some kind of party,
right.
and they're dating other people. and they're
Yes.
talking about how young Harry's girlfriend is, and
Right.
he's like, when I asked her where she was when Kennedy got shot, and she said
Right.
Ted Kennedy got shot, I looked
Right.
at my wife and I said, that question would be now, where were you when 9/11 happened?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's yeah. There are. It does feel. It still does feel kind of timeless, though, despite the fact that the fashions are a certain. Like it is.
Oh, you
Maybe
could
that's
definitely
another.
tell it's an 80s movie
Yeah,
with Meg Ryan's hair.
her with her hair and her outfits, and yeah. But at the same time, there's just a timelessness to it that is that just I don't know, just feels so I mean they do make a few references. He refers to his article about restaurants in the 80s or something, right? So
Right.
there are like these 80s references, but maybe it's the music, the soundtrack being sort of
The
at a
soundtrack helps
yeah,
because it's not modern music of the
right.
80s. So
Right.
it's
There's Louis
so
Armstrong in there. There's the Frank Sinatra. There's the Harry Connick Jr. doing the sort of modern now. I mean, 30 years later, 40 years later, but the modern sort of take on the on that kind of music. So that helps, I think, maybe take it out of a specific time a little bit.
and
It's
just the way the characters are treated and how they feel like real people
yeah,
helps too. It's
right,
like great movies do that, even if they are old and you can tell they're old by certain things. Like, yeah, look at the computer in Sally's apartment. That's
right,
not a computer anyone would
right,
have now. There's
right.
videotape references,
Right, right,
like
right.
this answering machine.
Yes, yeah. Well, and some of the plot points do sort of hinge on, things that wouldn't be a thing now, like you said, the answer machines. But there's, I don't know, it still feels like there's just a agelessness to it that just feels right. But anyways, it's just a movie that just makes me happy to sit and watch it. It doesn't condescend to me, it doesn't talk down to me, and it lets me fall in love and just really enjoy myself and feel good. And that's just a beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful to Rob Reiner for, being wonderful that way.
Yeah,
Making such a wonderful movie.
a wonderful man who made a wonderful film that people love to this day. I mean, I feel like it is set around Christmas and New Year's, though I feel like a lot of people like to watch it for New Year's Eve.
Right, right,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, well, no, that would be a good choice if you're, wanting to watch a classic movie on Christmas Eve. I think this, we've talked about a few movies that could make a good double feature with this, whether it's, The Apartment. I think The Apartment is a really astute observation. I'd not thought of that one before, but I like that connection as well. So I think there's, or maybe this and Casablanca could be
Yeah.
a fun double
But,
feature too.
but I mean, yeah, you can sit back and say Rob Reiner made, if not the greatest romantic comedy, one of the greatest, like easily in the top 10 Hall of Fame of romantic comedies, I would say.
Yeah, often imitated and never duplicated. So yes, it's and just like I said, the lines, like I find myself mouthing the words as I'm watching it because I almost have the entire script memorized. It is just so iconic. So every scene is so iconic. Every scene is funny, touching, moving, and legitimately romantic, which is just really nice.
Yeah. I mean, it yeah, it's so good. I don't know if there's very few romantic comedies I love more than this one.
Right. Yeah, it'd be hard for me to put too many up above it, but it's definitely one of my all-time favorites. As like I said, he's got a few others that make that list too. So,
Yeah, with
we've
their
talked
own
about the idea
genres.
that we may have to do a Rob Reiner edition of the director's chair one of these days, and I think that would be a really great project to do because he's
Yeah.
left us with so many great films, and
Yeah.
I definitely want to rewatch some. There's a few that I have to get to that I haven't got to, and there's a few that I want to revisit that I think maybe I didn't appreciate as much the first time. And then there are some that I watch all but constantly over and over again, like
Yep.
The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, and The American President. The American President is one for me that I really really resonates for me, and I
Well,
keep coming back to. So there's
I,
and Few Good
I
Men,
yes, but I didn't
Misery.
realize we watched The American President last year before the election results
Right,
were over because we were just like, I can't watch any more of this. I can't.
right, right.
So we put it on, and I was like, oh God, this is so much nicer.
Yeah, let
And
us live in this world. How do we get to this timeline?
and then I was like, I did not realize how much the West, like what the West Wing was going to be, is in that movie. Like it's
Yes,
like, oh wow,
it
like
was a
this was like
test run.
Sorkin's like test run for the West
Yep.
Wing,
That
and
and Spin City. I think
yeah,
Spin City owes a lot of its self to that movie as well.
yes, and then not only was Rob Reiner such a great collaborator with the writers we talk about, uh he's the reason Kathy Bates has the career she has because Kathy Bates, I guess, did this amazing play. I forget the name of it, but when they made the movie, they cast Sissy Spacek and told her, "You're not a movie star."
Right.
And Rob Reiner
I've
was
heard
like,
this
"I
story.
saw her on stage. She's incredible. If I find
That's
the
right.
right movie for her, I'm putting
Yeah.
her in it." And I wonder, I don't know if you caught this, but the book, one of the books Harry's reading in the movie is Misery. It's like, did he know already he was going to make the movie next?
I did not catch that. I'm gonna watch for that next time because yeah, there's a lot of books in this movie. That's true.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of reading that goes
And
on in this.
they're in a
Yeah.
bookstore, which
Yeah.
is, I think, a thing that's got to be a Nora Ephron thing because of
Right.
her being a writer, and then her remaking Shop Around the Corner with You've Got Mail. I
Right.
feel like
Right.
that, and then even her doing Julie and Julia, I feel like that's got to be a thing of hers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that line too, there's somebody watching you from personal growth. It's a funny, hilarious line, but it's also like they've come a long way. They have personally grown, and we're gonna see them grow further. She's working so many layers here in her script. Like she's throwing things in there that are just little subtle like cues and things. Like the script is so much more than just funny lines from one to
Yes.
the next. Yeah.
And then another great, I just want to share another great story I learned about Rob
Mhm.
Reiner. I
Okay.
don't know if you know this, but he really wanted to direct Shawshank Redemption when he read the script.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, Darabont got the rights a long time ago, really cheap from Stephen King.
Mm,
And he's like, I'm going to hold on to this till I feel like I'm ready as a writer and a filmmaker to tackle this.
wow.
And he writes the script, and everyone's like, that's an incredible script. And he's
Yeah.
like, but I want to direct it. And Castle Rock was like, we have to get the script. Rob wants to
Right.
direct it. But Darabont was able to convince him that let me direct this. And Rob Reiner was like, you know what? It's more important that we have the movie than who directs it. If you really feel like
Right.
you're the person to tell this story, then you tell it. And in
Mm,
fact, uh, he's making North, and of course, North comes out, and the screenings go
right.
horribly wrong. Apparently, Jerry Seinfeld walked out after 30 minutes of because I guess he went in to watch it because Castle Rock produced the
Yeah.
Seinfeld show, and then of course
Right.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Jason Alexander were both in the movie,
Right.
and then Darabont screens Shawshank for him, and like he says the whole time he's stone faced, no reaction,
Hmm.
nothing, and he's like, it's not going well. They're gonna kill the movie. They're gonna not release it. And after it's over, Rob said, "That was amazing. That might be the best movie we've ever made." Uh,
Wow.
eh,
He does seem like, from everything you hear, he was a really decent person. I know he really did a lot of advocacy work for a lot of things as well. But yeah, it just seems like as a filmmaker, very much a collaborator, which I very much appreciate. I think that you get just a richness with that. It makes me want to rewatch North and see. I remember seeing it when it came out, and I was very young and not didn't appreciate it, and maybe it's terrible. Maybe, I mean, not no one's perfect. Everyone's got to have like
Yeah.
but maybe who knows, maybe there's something there it feels like it's that I need to do a revisit.
It's probably at least interesting, right? Like, even if it's
Yeah,
bad, it's
right. What it would
probably
have been
not
early
like,
Elijah Wood, as he was just sort of coming out of being a child actor and being with the Ice Storm and a few other movies that he had made as a child. So yeah, I have to give that a shot again and
I've
see
never
what
seen
it
it.
has.
And I know Ghosts of Mississippi probably feels like an after school special, and I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but
Right.
I did not know anything about Medgar Evers before I saw that movie.
Yeah,
So
I didn't either. It was a good history lesson for me, and I think it inspired me to read more and learn more about that. But yeah, I think there's probably a few in his catalog I'd like to revisit and see if they got a fair shot or not. I also still have not seen his final film, the Spinal Tap sequel.
oh yeah,
So we're looking forward to getting a chance to watch that.
which
And
that
I mean, in
just
some
dropped
ways,
on streaming. I haven't watched it yet though.
yeah, maybe there's something sort of poetic. I mean, certainly it's, I don't want to, that's going to come off wrong, but I mean, with him being gone, the fact that his first film and his last film are, these connected films, and there's something poetic about that, despite the fact that he should still be making more films, and it's very, very tragic that we're not getting any more new films, and that for his family and his loved ones that he's gone.
And he was a gifted actor. Like, he's one of the
Yes,
funniest parts in The Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I
right.
quote that. Did those $6,000 for appetizers? Did those cure cancer?
I mean, again, apologize for the Woody Allen references, but um, my favorite Woody Allen film is Bullets Over Broadway. It's one of, I think, his only ones that he's not in, and Rob Reiner's in it and is so good in it. He's a funny character. He is, but the role that he plays is interesting, and just, yeah, he's a bright spot when he is an actor in somebody else's movies as well.
Yes, I mean, he showed up in Sleepless in Seattle. Uh, he just had a really good turn in this past season of The Bear.
Right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah,
Right.
he was Jess's dad on New Girl. Like, yeah, he was really gifted, and it's really bittersweet. But during COVID, Jason Reitman does those. He's done a lot
Right.
of live readings of scripts, right?
Right.
During COVID, he did various scenes from The Princess Bride with different actors,
Right.
and
Right.
he did a scene where Rob Reiner was playing the grandpa and
Oh,
Josh Gad
wow.
was the kid. But then when they get to the final scene, it's Rob Reiner as the grandson and
Oh.
Carl Reiner as the grandpa.
Oh,
And
wow.
this was one of the last things Carl Reiner did before he
Wow.
passed. And
Mm.
it's like, well, can you come back tomorrow and read the story again? And he says, as you wish.
Right. Right.
So,
Oh, wow. That would have been an incredible thing to be there for, wouldn't it? Yeah, very talented men. Very, it's such a loss. He was young enough that he probably would have continued to, make great art for us to be able to enjoy. So it is such a tragedy, especially in the way that it's all happened. It's just such a sad thing for everybody, and for those of us who are just the lucky consumers of his work. It's such a loss for all of us. But I mean, the one thing that we can hold on whenever one of these artists that we love passes, whether it's David Lynch or Rob Reiner, we have their films to revisit, and they're not going anywhere, and they're just holding up so beautifully. Like, again, when we were talking about doing this, a part of it was, we started 2025 by losing David Lynch, and we're now ending 2025 by losing Rob Reiner,
Rob Reiner.
two of my favorite directors ever.
And,
Yeah,
and two very kind, um, incredibly gifted, generous people. Like, neither one of them have I heard anything bad about them as like someone to work with, someone
right, right.
someone to
Yeah,
like all good stories mostly about them. And
Yeah.
Rob Reiner is going to be dearly missed. Out there for his children, all of his children, and
Yeah.
their families. But yeah, the man leaves a legacy, and like I said, at least 7 films that you could argue are all masterpieces.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know too many directors that can say that they could have that many of their filmography that are that strong. So,
Yeah,
um,
and such different genres.
yeah.
We go on and on about the auteur style of a director, but
Yeah.
sometimes being, I don't even know if it's fair to call him a journeyman director, but maybe he was a journeyman director. But to be able to make one of the best mockumentaries, one of the best coming of ages, one of the best fantasy, romantic comedies, thrillers. I
Yep.
mean,
Courtroom
Misery to this
dramas. Yeah.
courtroom drama, but Misery to this day gets to be more and more relevant with such the rise of the
Yes.
internet fandom. I'm like,
Yes.
this is such a classic take on toxic fandom.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was blessed to have amazing stories every time, right? Like Stand By Me, Misery, some of Stephen King's best writing. He missed out on Shawshank, but again, some of Stephen King's best writing. But also, this script so good. The Princess Bride, obviously, like there's just he's working with great. Like maybe that's a part of his brilliance was finding the and really taking advantage of. I don't mean that in a negative way.
But
Really great material.
cultivating those talented writers and
Yes. Yeah.
bringing their voice to the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, he didn't cultivate William Goldman, but he certainly, I think, helped bring a resurgence in Goldman's later half of his career.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like I think as film lovers, I think we're all blessed to have, Rob Reiner have made these movies. So, they definitely condolences to his family and the people in his life who knew him and loved him. And it's just, that's such a tragedy. But for all of us who love his work, it's, like I said, I'll be revisiting his work here for the bit. And this film, especially, it's just such a joyous film. And I just love it for all of its
It's
parts. Like watching through it, I wouldn't change anything. It's just so beautiful all the way through.
a beautiful, comforting movie. Not only does it remind me of how me and my wife fell in love, but it's a movie we both love and love to watch together. And it's
Right.
just one of those movies that'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry. And it's a movie you can cozy up with a blanket and just
Yeah.
be comforted by it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you for discussing it with me and letting us take this little diversion. I'm very excited to get back to David Lynch, but I definitely am also excited to get a chance to talk about this film and this filmmaker because he's been such a blessing. So thank you and happy holidays. I hope that you have a happy holiday and that in 2026 we don't lose more wonderful filmmakers.
Yes, happy holidays to you and your family and to
Thank
everyone
you.
out there. Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to talk about this movie. I've talked about this movie before, but I would talk about this movie to anybody who wanted to listen to me talk about it because
Yeah.
it truly is an amazing film, one of my all-time favorites. But I mean, we can say that so much about him, but yeah, I hope in 2026 we don't have too many more of these conversations because
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not great.
It's very sad. And we miss Kevin just for since he wasn't able to join us today,
Yes,
but he will be back with us next time, and we'll be
yes,
having more great Twin Peaks discussion next
yes.
time in the new year.
We'll be back in the new year to finally finish Twin Peaks.
That's right.
Uh, we are almost done with the return, and then we will just have a couple of movies left to discuss, and then we'll
Yes.
see what we want to do in the future. But I'm glad both of you want to keep doing this and talking about other things other than this little side project. It's been really fun. And yeah, it was great to take a break and do something related to the season, but also honor and respect Rob Reiner and his work. And this
Yes,
is one of his best films to talk about.
definitely. I could talk, like you said, I could talk about it forever. So thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All
All
right.
righty.
Happy
You
New
have a
Year to
great night.
everybody.
Yes. Have a great night. Happy holidays to all, and enjoy the rest of your break, sir.
Thank you.
All
See
right.
you in 2026.
Yes, sir. Good night.
Bye bye.